Good evening and welcome to the JDRF House Party for a Cure presented by ParT1D Kickoff Week MedTech session featuring Lilly Diabetes. These information sessions are made possible by our event sponsors, Omnipod, Sun Life, Bell Media, Sunripe, Apod Diabetes Care, Tandem Diabetes Care, Lilly, Dexcom, and Medtronic. Next slide, please. This week is the JDRF House Party Kickoff Week, and we have planned lots of great information sessions and activities for you. Make sure to join in for our scavenger hunt and video making activity this weekend. As a note, we will be recording this session to ensure it will be available to share for those not able to attend today. We would like to thank each of you for attending tonight's presentation with our national partner, Lilly Canada. We are very grateful to have with us this evening the inventors of Baqsimi, Robert Oranger, Dr. Claude Pichet, and Martin Lafontaine from Lasagna. They join us tonight to discuss the history and therapeutic benefits of Baqsimi and answer any question you may have. If you would like to ask a question, please enter your question in the Q&A section by clicking on the Ask button at the bottom of your screen. For our French participants, pour nos participants francophones, vous pouvez utiliser l'option de sous-titrage dans vos options à gauche de votre écran. Vous pouvez aussi poser vos questions en français. Nous aurons l'opportunité de leur répondre en français également. As we're turning things over to Robert, Dr. Pichet, and Martin, I would like to pose a few questions to them to get our discussion started. So here's my first question to you, gentlemen. How did Lasagna and Lilly come together to partner on Baqsimi?
Thank you, Kim. This is Claude Pichet speaking. Bonsoir à tous nos amis francophones. In response to your question, I'm going to ask for the first slide to come up so I can share a bit with you the history of how Lasagna and Eli Lilly came to form a partnership. Slide coming up. The relationship dates back quite a few years now. Eli Lilly actually purchased the product from us in 2015, but we have to go quite a ways back from there. In 2013, we had our first meeting with Eli Lilly at the Indianapolis airport. Oh, the photo doesn't come. There we go. There's a picture of Robert to my left in the photo, Martin, the youngest one in the photo, to my right. And here we are at the Indianapolis airport. This is October 2013, when we made our first visit to Eli Lilly. Now, that visit to Eli Lilly in 2013 was preceded by a couple of years of activity before then. Not a couple of years, I should say a couple of months. In the summer of 2013, I received a phone call from Dr. Ronit Vail, who is part of Lilly's External Innovation Research and Development Group. And she had managed to find us. Now, at the time, we didn't even have a website. We were completely under the radar, and deliberately, we didn't have a website. But we were conducting a phase 2 clinical study, and we had registered that study on clinicaltrials.gov, a public database. Well, Dr. Vail went through all the data, figured out a way to finally contact us, and I got a phone call one day. I was at a conference in Toronto, and my phone rang, and it was, "Hi, this is Dr. Ronit Vail from Lilly. I'd like to talk to you about your program with nasal glucagon." I have to admit, I was really, really surprised. I didn't think Lilly could be interested in this, because it's such a small product compared to the huge diabetes line that they have, the SGLT2s, the DPP4s, the GLP1s, the insulin. Glucagon is a very small product, but Ronit convinced me that they were indeed interested. So we then had a follow-up meeting a couple of months later in September of 2013 in Barcelona at the EASD, where Martin and I met with several of the senior Lilly executives, and they convinced us that they were indeed interested in learning more. That's what preceded then this trip a month later to Indianapolis to meet with the Lilly executive team. And I point out the tagline on the sign at the airport. It begins with a promise to discover medicines that make life better. Well, Dr. Runit discovered us because we were, as I said, completely under the radar. That meeting then led to a whole series of discussions. Ultimately, in February of 2015, we presented our phase 3 clinical study results, at which point Lilly got extremely interested. Deep due diligence over several months, and it culminated then in the sale of Baqsimi to Eli Lilly in October 2015. Now the story continues because although they'd sold the asset, Lilly has kept us somewhat involved, not in the details of what's happening, but we've had the incredible privilege of witnessing almost firsthand the incredible effort that's gone into taking the product that they bought from us to where it is today. We saw the incredible effort they put into finishing the development program, to the scale up and the manufacture, very, very complicated and resource intensive effort. And then the huge effort that went into getting Baqsimi, the regulatory dossiers with FDA, Health Canada, Europe, Japan, and other countries, to the point now where this year, Baqsimi is now available in the US and in Canada, in Europe, in Germany at this moment, and even in Japan. And so we've had this great privilege of kind of walking along with our baby as they continue to bring it to people who use insulin worldwide. It's been a real privilege, and we have no doubt, ever have a doubt that we have the very best partner we could have ever had for Baqsimi. So that's a bit the background on that story.
Thank you, Dr. Piché. So my next question for you would be, do you all have a connection with diabetes? So
I'll start with answering that one. My connection with diabetes is purely professional. I'm not personally affected. Nobody in my family is affected. It dates back to about 20 years ago when I was in Colorado at the time. I spent quite a long time in the States, and I was working in a small drug development company, and we were making long-acting injectable medicines. And so we were working on an ultra-long-acting insulin for ultra-long-acting basal insulin. And that's what got me hooked on diabetes. Now, I left that company. I set up a consulting company doing diabetes development work when I was introduced to Robert Oranger. And Robert was a person involved in diabetes business. In fact, he had been for several years selling the Dex4 tabs all over Canadian pharmacies and pharmacies in the US as well. And Robert wanted to innovate glucagon, but had no pharmaceutical experience. So we were introduced, and that's how the two of us got together on Baqsimi. And that's my background in diabetes. It's been my professional background, my passion for 20 years. I'll pass it on to Robert.
So thank you very, very much, Claude. Life is strange. It was 7 years that I had been in the diabetes business with Dex4 brand of glucose tablets, gels, and drinks. And in the hypoglycemia business, 7 years, and I had no connection in my immediate family to diabetes when I went into the business. It was completely coincidental that I had entered the hypoglycemia business, and then bang, in 1997, 7 years later, my son, Corey, my older son, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and less than a month later, my 9-month-old son, Justin, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So for my wife and I, for Marla and I, life changed. Life is crazy and strange, and everything went upside down. I say this a lot, for everyone who's diagnosed and put on insulin, whether it's type 1 or type 2, when you're put on insulin, there's actually an unspoken diagnosis. Nobody ever refers to it actually as a diagnosis. And that is, it's the risk of hypoglycemia, and of course the risk of severe hypoglycemia. And this risk hangs over everyone like a constant dark cloud. And it's actually a near-term, immediate potential complication. It's not long-term. When people are diagnosed, they're put on insulin, they go to Google and they worry about longer-term complications, eyes, kidneys, and this complication, it's a plague. It's there potentially every day. And so even though I had been selling hypoglycemia treatment products in the form of Dex-4 glucose tablets, gels, and drinks. And I thought that I was empathetic in terms of what I did and what I was selling. Until the kids were diagnosed, I really didn't understand what it all meant. And as parents, Marla and I were constantly thinking about who's got their back, who could have our kids back, and who could we leave our kids with if we were not near them? School teachers, hockey coaches, grandparents. The fear of and anxiety of hypoglycemia affects all kinds of interactions. And I have to say that my personal experiences with my family led me to deeply understand the relationship between the risk of severe hypoglycemia and ultimately loss of confidence and increased fear and anxiety, constant compromise, sometimes loss of spontaneity, dependence on others, vulnerability, situation avoidance. We came to really understand all these things. And I'll say that after 10 years of brewing this and having accumulated, I'll call it a personal 10,000 hours that Malcolm Gladwell writes about in his book, or wrote about in his book, Outliers, I was ready to do something. I wanted to improve and innovate glucagon, the rescue product, and make it simple. And I have to tell you, how was I going to do that? I have to remind you, I didn't have pharmaceutical experience. I was selling other diabetes products that were not sophisticated products. I would say glucose tablets at the end of the day, or they're glucose. You could call them jumbo sweet tarts or jumbo Pez. And so I came to a conclusion, if I was going to do something on this to innovate glucagon for rescue purposes, I had to find a CEO with pharma experience. And that's where I was introduced to Claude. And I knew when I met him that there was a match. Shortly after that, Claude and I met Martin Lafontaine, who we recruited to become our chief commercial officer. And Martin himself is touched by type 1 diabetes, and I'll let him tell his story.
Thank you, Robert and Claude. Yes, indeed, my connection with type 1 diabetes goes back 33 years ago now. Yes, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes myself at the age of 13 years of age. Just give you my age right now. And when Robert referred to, the plague of hypoglycemia and that second diagnosis, I really felt it very early on. First it was with my parents, right? Because we didn't know about, what diabetes was, like a lot of people receive a diagnosis. This is this new thing that you have to live with. But definitely shortly after, after the first low blood sugar you realize that, yes, I thought this was high blood sugar. It seems to be actually more than high blood sugar. It can also be low blood sugar, which is very anxiety prone. So my connection goes back, as I said, 33 years ago. And then from there, this is where, at a very young age, actually, and I decided that I wanted to make a difference out there. I took this diagnosis, which was, shocking and extremely difficult early on, but wanted to make sure I could involve myself out there to try to make a difference. So when it comes to where this led, initially I dreamt of becoming a hockey player. I think I was good, but not good enough to make a career out of it. So I decided actually to join the pharmaceutical and medical device industry and spend my time, bringing innovation and bringing my strength on the commercial side of things to bring innovation for people living with diabetes. Did that at a global level for, a large company. And following that, this is where I had the chance to meet Robert and Claude and to join Lasagna Solutions. So my connection is both personal, professional, and on top of all of this, like you'll say, this is maybe not enough, but I also I'm involved on the board of directors of different non-for-profit in the space of diabetes. So on top of living it, 24/7, working in the domain, I like to say I work pretty hard, so probably 10, 12 hours a day. My otherwise free time, I like to give myself out there again to try to make a difference for all of us, because I think when you look at definitely what I've lived the last 33 years, there's been a lot of great innovation. And when I look forward, you know, what's coming ahead of us is pretty exciting. And I'm part to be able to bring my skill and expertise somehow, again, to try to make a difference for all of us. So that's my connection with diabetes. And I still play hockey, not professional, but I still play.
Thank you so much. We're already seeing a lot of comments, so I think that our audience is really relating to your own story with diabetes, and everyone is saying, what a story. We share your stress. So thank you so much for sharing your personal story with us. My next question for you would be, can you tell us something that is uniquely Canadian about the development of Baqsimi?
Yes, it's Claude here. A couple of things that are uniquely Canadian. So Martin and I will tag team on this question. The photo you have in front of you is the entire Lasagna team. We were at the, unfortunately, Robert is not on this picture because he was taking it. And Martin will explain a bit the significance behind this photo. But in terms of a uniquely Canadian aspect of the development of this drug, so remember now, Baqsimi is administered as a puff of powder in the nose. The drug is absorbed from the nasal passages. So a question comes up is, what if somebody has nasal congestion, seasonal allergies, or things like that? Would the drug still work? Well, it's an important question to ask. And so that question normally is answered when companies are developing a nasal product. They'll normally do what's called an induced nasal congestion, where they'll expose people to a certain smoke or powder that'll cause nasal congestion, and then they'll test their drug. Well, we took advantage of our climate, and in the middle of a Montreal winter, we enrolled a bunch of people with a really bad head cold. We basically had ads running in the metro and on the radio saying, in essence, if you have a really bad head cold and feel awful, we have a study for you. And we had people come in to be treated while they were all congested, and then come back again a couple of weeks later to treat them when they had no more cold. And we were then able to compare the blood levels of the drug, and we found that there was no effect, that nasal congestion didn't affect it. So that was kind of something a little bit uniquely Canadian. The other part that's a bit Canadian is that we come from a Nordic country where it freezes. I mean, it's still pretty cold in May, and we developed a powder formulation that doesn't freeze. So that's something else compared to any of the liquid glucagons that are out there. You have to worry about freezing, whereas we developed this powder that doesn't freeze. Now I'll turn it over to Martin to maybe share a little bit more about the significance behind this photo here.
Yes, thank you, Claude. So, Claude, showed you the picture. As you can see, Lasagna solution is a pretty small team, right? You see there, Robert's not a picture, but you see the team that brought this product together at Lasagna. So initially, the team was even smaller. So we used to have our meetings in coffee shops because Lasagna didn't have a formal office. So we used to meet at a place called Première Moisson in Montreal, which is well known. If there are some people on the line here from Montreal, you know the place pretty well. So we were, having this table in the corner at the Atwater Market, and this is where we were having our team meetings, right? Very efficient. But then the team began to grow a bit. So we had to move our operations. So where do we go? So our next office was actually at Claude's condo. Claude's kitchen table at his condo was actually our boardroom. And I have to say, personally, this was pretty good for me because I used to live 2 blocks away from Claude was living, so I could just walk there. It was super convenient. But yet again, as the team grows, and you see here on the photo, the full team, we had to find another place because Claude's table in his condo was not big enough to accommodate for all these people, right? Fair enough. So this is where, through a friend of Robert, actually, that we ended up having the chance to run our operations or business meetings out of a meeting room where you can see there in a hockey rink. So my dream came true, actually. I knew I would make my career in an arena, right? And boom, it came all together when actually we were having our business meetings in a meeting room upstairs on the 2nd floor of this arena called Hockey Etc., which is in Montreal in the West End, where actually this made it very Canadian to hold actually business meetings into a hockey arena. And funny enough, I have to tell you that in my new role, doing a lot of consulting for different companies in the space of diabetes, I still work with some of the vendors and clients that we used to have in the Lilly days. And this, they all remember. They say the coolest meetings, and true, the coolest meeting we ever had is having meetings with you guys in a hockey rink in Montreal. This was so Canadian. So that's a story I think that had to be shared. And as I said, I realized my dream, actually making my career into a hockey rink.
Thank you for that great story. I think we all wish now to have our office in a hockey rink. So as we started to discuss, a lot of questions just came in. So I'm going to start with a few questions, if you don't mind, from our general audience. So the first question is in French, so I'll ask it in French, and please let me know who will be answering it. Maintenant que nous avons le Baqsimi, dans quelle mesure la vie peut être différente pour la communauté du diabète?
Martin, je te donne celle-là.
D'accord, donc je vais répondre. Donc, je pense qu'il y a peut-être deux façons de répondre à cette question. Je vais prendre le côté de la personne qui vit avec le diabète. Pour moi, j'ai tout le temps vu Baqsimi, oui, étant un produit qui peut aider à répondre à un épisode d'hypoglycémie sévère, mais j'ai tout le temps également vu Baqsimi comme un élément de confiance. Un élément de confiance autant pour moi que si jamais un incident allait arriver, les accidents peuvent arriver, que je puisse faire confiance aux gens autour de moi qui seraient capables de, comme on dit, de have my back, de pouvoir m'aider dans une situation de crise. De un, mais de deux, je crois, de façon encore plus importante, et je l'ai vécu tout au long de ma vie, je l'ai vécu en bas âge avec les hockey coachs, avec mes parents, avec les amis, je l'ai vécu avec les coworkers, je l'ai vécu avec Robert et Claude lorsqu'on voyageait ensemble à toutes les semaines. Je crois que Baqsimi également vient vraiment développer un sentiment de confiance chez les gens qui m'entourent, que si jamais quelque chose m'arrive, ils vont être capables de pouvoir prendre charge et pouvoir prendre soin de mon épisode. Donc, au-delà d'un produit, je pense que d'un produit pharmaceutique avec une intention tangible, je pense que le produit peut vraiment venir créer un sentiment de confiance que si un événement arrive, autant pour la personne comme moi que pour les gens autour, ben, l'événement va être capable d'être pris en charge au lieu d'être un événement, il va tout le temps avoir un niveau d'anxiété, mais qui va être capable d'être pris en charge. Donc, c'est ce que je dirais que un produit qui est simple à utiliser va être capable de créer en espérant pouvoir réduire le niveau d'anxiété au niveau de ces épisodes d'hypoglycémie sévère.
Merci beaucoup, Martin. Second question would be coming from Liz. Is Baqsimi in a one-time use dose?
Yes, it's a single-use product. It's intended. It has one complete dose in the product. I'll show you what it looks like here. It's a yellow tube. You pull out the yellow tube, and the device is here. And it's as simple as simply pressing the button until the very end, and you get a puff of powder that comes out. So it's intended to be a single-use, single-dose level for all people who use it.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Piché. Third question, maybe it can be answered in both French and English because I'm sure everybody would like to know. So I'll just say it in English and French. So, est-ce que le nom Baqsimi veut dire quelque chose? D'où est-ce que ça vient? So does the name Baqsimi mean something specific, and where does it come from?
Robert, why don't you take this one first?
I'll take it in English, and then you could take it in French. So we were always thinking, and I said it when I was describing my family situation, who could have our kids' backs, and who could they feel in their heart who could they feel would actually have their back? And likewise, people who love or care for somebody who uses insulin, can they feel in their heart that they could in fact have their back? So it's a very bi-directional thing. The person who uses insulin wants to feel in their heart that people could have their back. And people who love or care for somebody who uses insulin, they want to be able to have their back without anxiety. They want to have the confidence that they could have their back. And that's the root of Baqsimi. We kept talking about who's got your back. I've got his back. I've got her back. She's got my back. And we kept thinking about back and who's got your back. And we came up with the idea for naming it Baqsimi, but I'll tell you that the Q in Baqsimi also has a meaning to us because it was discovered here in Quebec, and so it's a hard Q for Quebec. Quebec is Baqsimi. So the Q is meaningful to us. We got across the phonetic word of Baqsimi with Baqsimi, and that's the explanation for the name Baqsimi. Claude, you want me to tell everyone? Claude, you want me to tell everybody the code name before you tell them in French?
Sure.
Yeah. So the code name for the project, but we didn't think that Health Canada or the FDA would approve of it. The code name was Schnozagon, and it was kind of named after the fact that I have a large schnoz. But we didn't go with Schnozagon. We went with Baqsimi.
Merci, Robert. Donc, le nom Baqsimi, assez racine dans le mot back, B-A-C-Q, de dos en français. Une expression en anglais qu'on se sert assez souvent de dire I've got your back, j'ai ton dos. Ça veut dire que c'est moi qui peux te sauver, c'est moi qui t'appuie. Donc, le concept qu'on voulait communiquer, c'est dans le nom, c'est le concept d'avoir la confiance que je puisse sauver quelqu'un et que la personne puisse me sauver. Donc, c'est une espèce de va-et-vient entre les deux. Mais on s'est enraciné sur le mot back, B-A-C-K. On a remplacé le CK avec le Q, qui pour nous représente Québec. On a ajouté SIMI pour devenir Baqsimi. Donc, c'est de là que ça vient. Il y a deux significations. Un, c'est Québec, d'où vient le produit. L'autre, et le premier, c'est vraiment le concept que je suis confiant que je puisse te sauver. Tu es confiant que tu puisses me sauver. Et donc, c'est ça la racine du nom Baqsimi.
Very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Now a question from Julian, who would like to know if Baqsimi will be used in pediatric clinics when families are trained on how to use glucagon.
I think that would be a question that would be better answered by Eli Lilly. We're not marketing the product; it's Eli Lilly, so that would be best handled by the Eli Lilly company.
Perfect, thank you. And someone would like to know the meaning behind your company name, Lasagna.
Robert.
Sure, I'll take that one. I'm happy somebody asked the question, and that was not a setup. So we named the company Lasagna. It's a combination of low blood sugar and hypoglycemia. And when we were trying to think of a name, we wanted to convey that we were 100% focused on hypoglycemia, specifically severe hypoglycemia. But I will tell you that we were 100% focused on making hypoglycemia rescue simple. And that was a mantra of everything we did all along the way. And that's where the name Lasagna came from.
Thank you. Now a question from Thérèse in French. Avez-vous entendu des histoires de patients ou de leurs aides-soignants qui ont connu un certain succès avec l'utilisation de Baqsimi?
Martin, veux-tu répondre à ça?
Oui, Thérèse. Donc, l'expérience qu'on a à ce jour, je dirais, de mon côté, a été ce que l'on a vu sur les médias sociaux. Où c'était très intéressant pour nous d'observer initialement, c'était lorsque, le produit a été approuvé initialement dans le marché américain, donc de voir sur les médias sociaux l'excitation pour le produit au niveau de l'approbation. Ensuite, le tout a continué à avancer vers l'excitation que les gens allaient se procurer le produit en pharmacie. Donc, on voyait des photos avec les gens qui sortaient de la pharmacie avec leurs produits. Donc, encore une fois, qui pour nous était immense parce que ce sur quoi on a travaillé maintenant devenait réel. Non pas uniquement approuvé, mais maintenant disponible en pharmacie. Et si on continue à avancer dans le temps, par la suite, c'est là où on a commencé à voir également sur certains médias sociaux des histoires où le produit a été utilisé et a pu sauver un patient d'une hypoglycémie sévère. Donc, cette gradation-là d'événements dans le temps, je dois dire, d'un point de vue leucémia, l'excitation de l'approbation que le produit était maintenant réel, que maintenant il était dans la main des gens pour pouvoir s'en utiliser si possible, qui par la suite de voir certaines histoires vraiment d'épisodes actuels qui parlent de sauvegarde, c'était, puis je pense que je parle pour Claude et Robert également, là, ça venait nous toucher de façon très profondément de voir l'utilisation du produit qui pouvait justement sauvegarder les épisodes d'hypoglycémie sévère. Donc, je ne sais pas, Claude, si tu as quelque chose à ajouter sur ça.
No, yeah, maybe just a few words in English on the same question. That yes, we've seen an evolution. What Martin was saying is we've seen an evolution primarily in social media, where soon after the product was approved, we saw people posting, joy, I guess you could say, in that a new form of glucagon was approved and excitement about that. Then in the next weeks and months, we started seeing postings on social media of people who are proudly showing off their recently acquired Baqsimi, either at the pharmacy or at home in their diabetes kit. And then more recently, in the last several months, we're now seeing some very, very touching, very emotional postings of people describing a real severe hypoglycemia, finding a loved one unconscious in the middle of the night, reaching for the Baqsimi and successfully treating a severe episode. So yes, indeed, we are seeing that. And in our hands right now, it's through social media.
If I could add one thing, Kim, to that, we had an exercise we ran for our with our team, and we said if you could, when you label the package, if you could only put 3 words on the package, what would the 3 words be? If that's all you could do, what would this product mean? And somebody came up and said, well, it's obvious we could do it with 2 words: hypoglycemia treatment. If the label was only permitted to have 2 words, we'd say hypoglycemia treatment. And then the exercise went on a little bit, and somebody else said, if we put 2 words only, it's really insulin insurance, because if you use insulin, you need to carry this for insurance purposes to protect yourself. And the discussion went on further. And what I love the most in this exercise is somebody on the team said, what really should be on this tube, if the label had 3 words, is hypoglycemia discussion enabler. And that's what I'm most proud of on social media. I look all the time at hashtag Baqsimi on Instagram, and the same hashtag is coming up. It has nothing to do with Lilly. That hashtag organically is happening with families, and some of the posts are from people with type 1 diabetes or insulin users, and some of the posts are from friends and brothers, sisters, relatives. There's a discussion that can take place now that couldn't take place before, because we've made it simple, and we people can now have confidence that they can have the discussion without cringing, that the person they're going to be explaining glucagon to, they're going to roll their eyes in fear. And so we're very, very proud of enabling a new discussion to take place, and expanding the community of people who could step in and rescue if need be.
Great. Well, I invite all of our guests to audience to research hashtag Baqsimi, and just to maybe look for the different stories and really learn from the different use of all of those patients. Thank you. Now a question from Guy. Quelle est la période de péremption pour le Baqsimi?
En ce moment, il faudrait vérifier avec Lilly. Il me semble qu'ils ont 2 ans de période d'expiration, mais il faudrait vérifier avec les représentants de Lilly.
Parfait. Une question de la part de Claire. Est-ce que la dose est la même, peu importe le poids, l'âge et le sexe? Est-ce que ça peut être utilisé sur les enfants de très bas âge également? Le
produit est approuvé pour les enfants à commencer de 4 ans. Donc, à moins de 4 ans, le produit n'est pas encore approuvé. Donc, à compter de 4 ans, oui, le produit peut être utilisé. Et c'est le même dosage à compter de 4 ans jusqu'à 40 ans ou 80 ans. C'est le même produit pour tous les âges, peu importe mâle, femelle, poids ou âge. D'abord, ils ont plus que 4 ans.
Parfait, merci beaucoup. Robert, Thérèse would like to know if your kids have ever used Baqsimi.
If you would go back to the slide, whoever's controlling the slide, and show Corey and Justin, because I never really talked to that picture, but the photo on the left is Corey and Justin right when they were diagnosed. Corey was age 3 and Justin was 9 months, as I said. And this picture to the right, the picture to the right is them. It was in the September, October timeframe in New York City. They're both living in New York now. And the answer to the question is yes. My son Justin has used Baqsimi in 2 different situations.
Thank you. Guy has another question for you, gentlemen. Si le produit est gardé sur soi durant les mois chauds d'été, est-ce que le produit sera compromis?
Encore une fois, je pense que c'est une question qui doit être répondue par le monde de Lilly. C'est à eux le produit. Donc, les aspects techniques du produit, c'est vraiment Lilly à répondre à la question.
Parfait, merci. Donc, c'est tout pour les questions de la part de l'audience. That's it from the questions from the audience. Thank you so much for your work to bring this new product to market and helping to ease the burden of those living with type 1 diabetes. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Dr. Pichet. Thank you, Martin, for this informative session. And a huge thank you to our event sponsors, Omnipod, Sun Life, Dell Media, Medtronic, Abbott Diabetes Care, Lilly Canada, Tandem Diabetes Care, and Summarize, making these sessions possible. Again, a recording of tonight's discussion will be available on JDRF YouTube channel in the coming weeks. Thank you to all of those who are already registered for the JDRF House Party for a Cure on June 14th. The JDRF House Party for a Cure is a one-day family-friendly virtual and interactive house party that rallies together those affected by type 1 to unite and raise funds to accelerate the pace of type 1 diabetes research. You can visit us at jdrfparty.ca or in French, frdjparty.ca for more information or to register. Thank you again, and together we are more than type 1.